Well, Richard, I appreciate you coming on the show with us. I wanted to talk to you about, homeowners insurance and some news that's come out about that. And if you have questions about homeowners insurance, you can certainly call us. Richard's been on our show monthly for the last, about a couple of years now.
You're right, yeah, a couple of years.
And you can check his website out at insuranceontheradio.com. But wanted to talk to you about the release I saw where the state of Florida, sent out some information that breaks down the the insurance policy writers by size. And obviously you've still got the big dog, Citizens, way up there on the top of the list at 1.4 million policies. And then you kind of climb the charts. You wanted to point out something about a company that you actually like and do some business with, like Tower Hill, for example, because they didn't, apparently Tower Hill has more than one company, and they didn't, and same with like a Castle Key, which is
right.
I think Allstate, they didn't combine them, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I got the same list and was looking over it earlier in the week, and the first thing I obviously noticed, you pointed out, Citizens is at the top of the list, which really don't think they should be. I mean, the numbers are correct. However, right. I run into people every day who have their home insured through Citizens, and they have a newer, built in the 2000s, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a nice area with no prior claims, and they're insured with Citizens, and they're getting subpar coverage through Citizens because they can't get coverage for their screen pool cage, and they can't get the right levels of liability that they want, and there's a lot of Citizens keeps cutting back and cutting back and cutting back, and so you really shouldn't be insured with Citizens unless you have to be, and I run into people every day who are insured with Citizens.
Well, that's what it was always set up to be, the insurer of last resort, but it became the insurer of only resort,
right.
in some capacity.
Well, and I think in some ways that's driven by the insurance agencies that are out there, and it's not their fault. They're not trying to drive people to Citizens because they think it's a good idea. But in certain areas, it's very difficult for insurance agencies to get the right to write business for insurance companies, because insurance companies don't want to give out that that ability to write insurance for them if the people are in a questionable area, or if the agency, agencies in Hillsborough County, for instance, have a difficult time getting new insurance companies. But that agency might not just write in Hillsborough County. They might write in Polk County. They might write in Manatee County. And so they had, they may have the ability to go out there and insure some really good risks for houses in very safe areas, but they're only able to put them with Citizens because that's the only insurance company that they can get.
Right, and I think again, there's obviously lots going on to try and change Citizens' role in the insurance market, and who knows how successful it'll be in terms of the time frame and how long that takes. But ultimately, I think that at some point we're going to look at this list, and it's not going to be so overwhelmingly in favor of Citizens. And I think just like you, the insurance agents that are out there have the ability to look and decide, is Citizens the right seat for someone.
Right, yeah, and if you look at this list, Citizens Property Insurance is #1 on the list with 1.4 million policies. #2 on the list is Universal Property and Casualty, and they only have 500,000 and change. So Citizens is almost 3 times the number two
right.
company on the list, and so that's really skewed in a really big way. And it really shouldn't be. There obviously needs to be some changes made, and that's what this list is saying to me. And the other thing that we talked about is that there are companies such as Tower Hill that you mentioned, and Tower Hill comes in at number 13 on the list, which to everybody listening thinks, wow, they must not have very many policies out there. But number 13, Tower Hill Prime, is 104,000. And then you look down on the list a little bit further, you have Tower Hill Signature, 78,000.
Right.
And the list stops at a certain point, but you don't realize that Tower Hill actually has 6 different companies, which is all combined to create Tower Hill.
Depending on the type of product that's being insured.
Right, depending on the county where the house is, different things like that. So if you were to add up all of those 6 companies of Tower Hill, they would really be number 3 or 4.
I mean, we see the same thing when it comes to real estate franchises, for example. There are some companies like RE/MAX, for example, all of our offices are independently owned and operated. Some of the other companies have more of a corporate structure where there's a corporate entity that, and there are some franchise offices, but most of the offices are corporate owned. So you'll see news releases come out that we're the number 1, real estate broker in the world because they combine all their offices together.
Right.
And RE/MAX is a franchise, sells way more real estate than that large corporation, but we just run our model differently. So if you were to add up all the sales from all the different RE/MAX offices, it would annihilate that other company. But it's just how they're set up that they're able to claim that. So anytime I see someone a real estate brokerage company proclaiming to be number 1. Hey, everybody can be number 1 in something. They're looking for something to be number 1
There's
in.
Always there's always a number out there that you can be number 1 in.
Right. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. We're going to continue this conversation with Richard about Citizens Property Insurance, a new type of coverage they have, as well as some new information about wind mitigation studies after a quick break here on 970 WFLA.